of one man who persuaded his friends to watch every Godzilla movie ever made. This world is on the brink of destruction. We need you now, Godzillavangelists! Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew network podcast, produced and hosted by Ryan Sargent, featuring Sam Schlenker and Joanna Brodecki.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Melissa O'Brien, the esteemed animator of King Kong. I am, just having a tough time in Hollywood, and I came up with a really cool idea for a new King Kong movie. I was wondering if you could help me make it, Mr. John.
Oh my God! Here, come on into my office. Have a seat. You look famished. You look absolute. You look like garbage. Like you haven't worked in 30 years.
I haven't.
Here, have a seat. What was your idea, son?
Well, I thought it would be cool if King Kong came back and fought like a Frankenstein monster, like if Dr. Frankenstein built a giant monster and they like had a boxing match in San Francisco.
I'm going to stop you right here. I love every word of it. Yes, I'm all in. How much do you want for it?
Oh, thank you. Well, I was really just hoping that I would get to animate again, like one more time.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, that's part of the idea, isn't it? All right, here. Now, if you'll excuse me one moment, just close your eyes. I'm going to make a phone call right in front of you. All right?
Okay.
Just stay right there.
I'm going to close my eyes and shut my ears. Yeah.
It's an international number.
Hello?
Hi, is this Toho?
Oh, it's Toho.
Oh, I love you guys over there. Hey, I have an idea for you. I'll sell you for $5,000.
Well, you better damn well tell me the idea before you sell it.
All right, it has something to do with a King Kong, and that's all I know, but you don't need to animate it. It can be done cheaper.
Question. King Kong, the big furry guy.
That's right, from 30 years ago. You forget about him? I did until right now.
What does the animator want for this? What do they want? He doesn't, just happiness and credit
doesn't
or
matter.
cash?
Cut him out of it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, sorry about that, son.
Yeah.
You want to kill yourself now, or do you want to go home and kill yourself?
And scene. And that is how King Kong vs. Godzilla got made. Welcome to Godzillavangelists. I am Ryan Sargent, and with me, as always, are my lovely co-hosts, Sam and Joanna.
Toho!
Toho!
Toho! It's our new greeting. So this episode, we're going back to where it all began. Little 5-year-old Ryan sitting in front of a 16-inch television watching King Kong vs. Godzilla. And here to help us celebrate this momentous occasion is my good friend, my often collaborator. That's not how you say that, but you all know what I mean. He's a great writer. He is the host and producer of Geek Stew, our Big Brother podcast. And he just launched his own personal website, the Afro Archive, so you can check that out. Please welcome Matthew Charles.
Hello. Thank you. You're too kind.
So, Matt, we always have to ask when somebody visits our show, what kind of previous Godzilla experience do you have?
So, I'm kind of like a mid-level fan of Godzilla. So, I've seen a few of the more recent modern movies. I like monster movies as a whole. I got into Godzilla playing Destroy All Monsters on the GameCube as a child.
Great game.
And
Never heard of
because
it.
I've known you've dragged me kicking and screaming through the rest of the library in bits and pieces. And it's been beautiful and glorious.
Oh, wow. We have a very different perspective on the show today. Love it.
Yeah, you sound like you enjoy being dragged.
I mean,
Willingly dragged.
I mean, we all, whatever gets your kicks, right?
I guess so.
This will be good. This will be good.
Matt, you definitely are more of a fan of these movies than any other guest we've had on the show thus far.
That's a low bar.
That's true.
That's why Ryan's considering having him on multiple episodes. Like, some support.
Yeah, I need somebody to help me defend this.
Well, also, we can't really say no to him, can we? Because he's kind of our boss, right?
Right, exactly.
I like to think of myself as that nice, kind of casual corporate boss where, you know, you can hang out and get a few beers, but we'll, like, totally sack you without warning at any time.
Perfect.
That's true. You have complete control over this episode, technically.
Halfway through, there will be, like, a different voice. Like, I'll say something that was clearly offensive, and I'll be like, oh, yeah, something about Godzilla. He's such a nice monster. He is good. Matt is my friend.
Ryan's like, he's so cute and cuddly looking.
Just halfway through the episode, you'll just start talking about anime. Like, Godzillavangelists, it's done. It's
for
over.
The listeners at home, if you hear me talking about anime, I am dead. It was not me. Right to my family.
He's been replaced. All right, well, I know there's a lot of anticipation about this one, and I actually wrote twice as many notes as usual, so let's go ahead and get into the story of King Kong versus Godzilla. The American version of King Kong vs. Godzilla opens bafflingly with a Shakespeare quote. I believe it's...
I was shocked. I was like, okay, I'm into it.
There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than your mind could ever picture, or something like that.
Yeah, good. Hamlet, too. I was like, wow.
I've never understood why. But that's how the movie starts.
It seems to me to make giant leaps to prove how Western it is throughout the movie. And that is my theory as to why they did that.
That's a good point.
I think they also want to, like, try to make this movie as serious as possible because, boy, do things get wacky real quick.
I think those are both fair points. And but as soon as we fade into the Earth, we arrive in good old New York at the UN newsroom, which I'm not sure is a real thing, but in this movie it is.
I thought too. I was like, "Wow, this is an advanced newsroom. Here we go." Is this NPR? What is going on?
With Eric Carter, the whitest white man who has ever
Okay,
lived.
but no, he was not nearly as bad. My first thought, he's not nearly as bad as that. What's his name? Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey.
Steve Martin.
Steve Martin.
Steve Harvey's a little different, but he'd be right at home in this movie. We'll get to that a little later, though.
So, and there's almost immediately another really weird step that I would call a misstep. The movie starts off with this guy, Eric Carter, being like, there was an earthquake in Chile, and the UN sent them supplies. And then he calls Chile to talk to a Chilean guy who's like, thank you for the supplies. And then they finally start talking about stuff that has to do with King Kong and Godzilla.
My favorite, though, was that they sounded as if they were speaking to each other, but they would only hold the phone. Like, the phone was not doing anything useful for them. They'd be like, why, thank you, move it away, so much for the update. And then they'd, like, sometimes not pick it up in a scene when they were transferring back and forth. They really needed someone on the side helping out with that.
Also, are they at a space station?
Are they at a space station?
Yes, they kept cutting to this space
station. They did. The internet.
I was like, wait, are they in space? Are they recording this live from space right now?
Yeah, this one was advanced.
You're right, that is confusing. Every time a call transfers in this movie, they show the satellite.
Yeah.
And it's the exact same shot with the same meteor flying by.
I like to believe they are in space.
And their phone cord is
I'm assuming that. Thank you for that, Matt. That is what it is.
all the newsroom scenes look super cheap. They hang a bunch of like maps and flags from the wall, and they're all wrinkled, like they were improperly stored.
And they're all like so slow. Like the movie's moving, and then like it's really the newsroom scenes are like long, and they are just talking kind of like this about what's happening.
Yeah.
And no one from the newsroom appears in the rest of the film.
Well,
Yeah.
It's like in this pocket dimension.
And then we meet legitimately my favorite human character in any Godzilla movie.
oh, he's incredible.
Dr. Taco.
Well,
Oh, hell yeah.
his best
I
moment
love
doesn't
him.
come till the end, or midway through to the end. But yes, he's unreal.
Yeah, so we finally start using scenes from the Japanese version of the movie. It's a little meeting between I like to call him Dr. Taco. He's actually just Mr. Taco. But Mr. Taco, who's the head of this company called Pacific Pharmaceuticals, and a doctor who works for him, and two of like his low-level employees. And the doctor is like, yeah, I went to the South Seas and I found this crazy island with these magical narcotic berries, and also there was supposed to be a big monster there.
Were you guys getting some like extreme Mothra vibes at this part? I was like, I've seen this before. Nothing new.
There's definitely some relations. There's a little bit of like cannibalism between this and Mothra. But then the two low-level employees are making fun of him. But Dr. Taco is like, we need something for our television show so that we can bring in the ratings. So I want you guys to go to this island and bring me back a monster.
I love that NBC's like, let's do a live version of Peter Pan. And in this, he's like, let's get this freaking giant monster out here.
I'm with Taco. I wanna work for him. Like, like fuck it, we're getting a monster, boys.
I honestly, it's a great premise. Like, this is another example of how I love Shinichi Sekizawa's screenplays, because he's just at this point accepted that giant monsters are a way of life in the reality of these movies.
Yeah, but here's the one thing I will say, the gripe I had at the beginning. Each film we watch, they keep being like, whoa, Godzilla's back? What? How did this happen? And each film spends like 10 minutes going through, oh, the atomic, we think blah, 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 he's coming back. I'm like, at this point, guys, don't we fucking know
Right.
he could come out from under the water at any point? Like, we're aware of this. We don't need to go through the spiel.
Every single one of you has a cousin or like aunt who has been killed by Godzilla.
Totally.
At this
Everyone
point.
knows.
Or Rodan.
Or
Mothra.
right.
And yet everyone is so shocked every time.
Oh, there are things I could say about future movies and how they handle Godzilla, how people
I will say,
react
for
to
the
him.
record,
Oh, God.
like with Dr. Taco, which also just Dr. Taco, what a name! And it makes me smile every time I say it.
Amazing.
No, you kind of expect it to be a Mothra situation where he's kind of the villain, but you kind of pretty quickly realize he's actually he's more of a soft shell Taco.
Yeah. He seems more dumb than maniacal. Just like
Just
a
doing
little-
his job.
A little bit dim in the...
He's amazing. He's just like, I know that, you guys always shout me down with nerd alerts or whatever.
Yeah.
But the guy who played him, Ichiro Arashima, he is known as the Japanese Chaplin.
I was...
because
Oh my
he's
god,
just
I was
like-
just going to ask, is he like Charlie Chaplin of his age?
Basically,
I was
he's
just
like known
Googling on
for
my
being,
phone
like-
Charlie Chaplin to see if there was a... Okay, amazing. Glad you said it. Wish I said it
Yeah,
first.
he was known for being able to like make people laugh and cry really easily, and he won the Blue Ribbon Award, which is sort of the Japanese equivalent of the Oscar in the 1960s. Not for this movie, but he did.
I
win
was like,
one.
for this one. He was wackadoodle.
So
For your
he's just-
heartbreaking,
he's great.
Your heartbreaking performance as a taco.
Dr. Taco's a real, like, there's some real depth there, guys.
Right?
He's just a hard-working man trying to make some good TV.
Make some good cash.
And I mean, I'll try to not say this over and over again, because I could for this movie, because it's so different in the Japanese version. But get ready for a lot more Dr. Taco
Oh,
Yes.
Japanese
yeah.
version.
I'm ready.
But anyway, so yeah, he sets his two employees, Sakurai and Furu, to go out to Faroe Islands and find him a monster. And then we get back to the newsroom, and Eric Carter's like, hey, in the North Sea of Japan, there's this American nuclear submarine called the Seahawk. And it's finding out, like, why the weather is unusually cold. And the Seahawk scene is legitimately, like, what made me love Godzilla. Like, I know that a lot of the fun of this movie comes from how funny it is, but that scene I will legitimately defend as, like, being set up, like, to provoke a good amount of tension. I like it a lot.
What?
So what?
Would you guys ever go on a submarine?
Not after that scene.
Right? Terrifying.
So,
Because I will
Yeah,
agree,
so-
they get wiped out so hard.
I will say, I thought that we were doing like voiceover, and I was like, wow, they picked like a real. The captain doesn't look like he'd have that low of a voice, and then I realized that it was actually him talking, and I was very impressed. But he was no Titanic captain. That's the only thing I'll say.
right.
I did like it.
So I should back up. I need to explain this. So what happens is this nuclear submarine filled with scientists is going through this ice field, and they see this iceberg that's like glowing eerily, and they go towards it, and suddenly everything in the submarine stops working. It breaks down like piece by piece, and the tension builds, and they can't escape. And then all of a sudden, you hear the roar of Godzilla, and flames fill the submarine. It's just such a cool moment. I still get tingles up and down my spine when I see the ending of that scene, just because it was like so important to me as a kid.
Sam, out of 10, what do you rank that scene?
Out of 10 Godzillas, it was pretty good. I think, and Ryan's gonna hate this, I think like you, I was really concerned with, are these guys being dubbed? These American scientists, because I think they were, but I think they were dubbed. They were speaking in English, and then they were dubbed with a different English voice.
Yeah.
They are.
Okay.
In the Japanese version, they speak English, but they're all awful actors. So
Yes.
better dub artists redid their lines.
So in terms of dub job, I'd give it like a 5 out of 10.
Yeah, because the captain, when everything was going down, he's like, see, he had like no emotion going through him. You know, like the Titanic captain, you like see the tears in his eyes. But the rest.
Look out! It is Godzilla. Save us.
Right. The trap door is open. Oh no.
There is one line in it that is just like so understatedly funny, and it kills me and my dad every time we watch it. We quote it back to each other all the time, which is when the problems start building up, and one of the sailors like tells the captain, like, "Captain, like our engine doesn't work." He turns around and he says, "Oh, great."
Yeah,
That killed me.
No heroic composure at all. He's just like, "We're fucking fucked."
I love too that the scientist or whoever else was on that was like, "What's happening?" I'm like, "You guys again, you got in a submarine. Like, you have to know what the risk is if you're doing that."
Oh, it's Godzilla. Good grief.
I just love that perfect blend of like wobbly early dubbing, but with legit like this situation is turning into a nightmare. It's almost surreal how bad things get that quickly.
Yeah, I think one of the best things the American version of this movie does is build up Godzilla and King Kong's first appearances, because the build up to both is pretty great. In another scene, Sakurai goes home, and we meet his sister Fumiko, and her boyfriend
I have some
Fujita.
I do too.
You have some thoughts on Fumiko?
I have some thoughts.
So here's the woman in the movie. Her first line is, "Your eggs are ready. Do you want them?" Then the next line is, "I made that steak for you. Eat your steak." And then that's about all we get.
We also meet very soon thereafter the government figure for this movie, Mr. Shikazawa, who's like the government minister. He's like in charge of formulating the anti-monster plans in this one. Not very important again. Another very boring role played by Akihiko Hirata, sliding ever downward from his Dr. Sarazawa role.
Wow, wait, that's him?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
How the mighty have fallen.
Not much going on with him, but he occasionally pops in to make some decisions. And after we meet these side characters, we get back to Godzilla, who's attacking this Arctic army base. And that's another really cool scene that, like, fired my imagination as a kid, especially the first few shots where he's, like, wading out of the cold ocean onto land. Those looked absolutely real to me as a kid. And I thought, like, how could something be, like, so big and frightening and exciting? And so this is another scene that I have total nostalgia blindness.
Wait, you thought it looked absolutely real? As a child?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
how tender.
Wait.
So cute.
Whoa. Well.
The savagery.
No, I really do. I mean, it's cute. It's precious.
Tender.
Ryan,
That's
you know,
what I
like
say
a-
about my niece.
for the
I did not mean that maliciously. I just meant it's funny because it did not look real to me, but it's cute to imagine 5-year-old Ryan.
this actually was my takeaway on this movie, though, was like seeing this. I feel like I've gained an insight into Ryan that I have not gotten in like 6 years of friendship. But watching this movie,
What is that?
it just so much made sense because I knew this was your favorite, and watching it, I was like, this is so silly, and there's so much. It's so much about the monster fights in a way that these previous ones weren't. And then I was like, oh, I get. You know what? I get it. I like this one. I can see having. It feels like the first one that like knows what its tropes are almost. It kind of like it's like there's a little like self identity of like we know what the little Ryans have come to see.
Yeah.
And you're starting to get a sense of it, and I feel like those are the things we'll continue to see more of.
And it moved a little faster, just like hitting on them and keeping things going.
Yeah, that's definitely the way things are trending.
Also, wait, quick question.
Yes.
Did his back always used to glow blue right before he's about to blow fire?
Well, there was no color in the other two, but it would glow.
Right.
But yeah, this is the first one.
color.
This is the first one where we learn his atomic breath is blue.
Amazing.
And then right on the heels of this scene is a scene that's became amazing to me in adulthood, which is Dr. Taco's hysterical reaction to Godzilla being on the television. It's
The weirdest minute of film I may have ever watched.
It's inimitable. I'm gonna make the sound he makes right now while like running his fingers through his hair.
Yes.
No more! I'm sick of Godzilla.
And he's so lanky, his arms are just all over the place.
But yeah, Dr. Taco freaking out about Godzilla is legitimately in my top 10 Godzilla movie moments.
Yeah, I agree.
Remember that one when we do the
All
top
right.
10 episode eventually.
Someday.
I'm gonna be bad at that. I have a bad
Someday.
memory.
And then finally Sakurai and Furu arrive on Faro Island.
Ooh, baby.
This is where it gets good.
Here comes
Oh boy.
lots of brown face.
Looking
Oh my
for
God.
King Kong on Blackface Island.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Well, you know, is the blackface the most problematic, or brown face the most problematic part, or is it giving cigarettes to children?
I mean, that part's particularly hard. So to explain what happens, it's this very stereotypical, like straight out of the 30s scene where they get on the island and the natives are immediately hostile and they're like, we don't want to be your dinner. And they impress the chief with a radio singing like a little Japanese pop song.
Yeah, well, they say, wait, look at this. It's magic.
Yeah.
And then he goes, oh.
Which is the two things that weird me out about that whole sequence is one, they kept the Japanese pop song in. All the other cuts and dubs and changes they made, that stays in 100%. And then also, this movie, that section of the movie is weirdly similar to Cannibal Holocaust.
Really?
Like the same plot points and like way things play out. They get to the island, they win them over by playing a radio, and they think it's magic. It was weird. It was very weird.
That's so funny.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Ryan, get to my favorite character.
Matt's favorite character is the little boy's mother. Explain why.
So what happens is, I can't remember the exact details that like lead to this sequence of events. So this little kid is told to like go get berries or juice from the hut to feed King Kong. He runs to the hut. His mother realizes he's missing. And for some reason, despite wearing blackface, his mother is gorgeous. Like, drop dead stunner. Like, oh, okay.
Someone's got a little crush.
I will not deny it.
She's a cutie. There's a lot of cute women in this movie, which is unfortunate because they don't have much
Nope.
to do.
She can dance well too, so that's one thing she can do.
That dance was so sexual. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
And the kind of dead-eyed look in their face, I was like, all right, interesting.
Then we have a scene where Famiko finds out that her boyfriend's plane crashed, although it shows a picture of a boat on the newspaper story, because in the Japanese version it's a boat.
I was completely thrown off by this point. I was just like, wait, huh? What happened? Why?
So she goes to Hokkaido to look for him, which in this movie they pronounce Hokkaido.
Yeah.
And as a result, I pronounced it that way for 13 years, and
Oh my god.
it was only when I got to college that somebody's like, why are you saying it like that?
But a few people pronounced it right in the film, but
Yeah.
most of them didn't.
And then we get back to the UN newsroom where we meet
Woo!
Dr. Arnold
Love
Johnson.
this guy.
Oh man,
Just
so many thoughts on this man.
I felt like I was watching Mr. Rogers for part of this movie. I was like, I'm learning so many things.
There's a trope of old movies that I've noticed that he is like the poster child of, which is like pronouncing words wrong to sound smarter. and I have some examples here, including well, as you know, Godzilla is a reptile.
Yeah.
It's like it's reptile. It is not reptile, and he has several others, including he uses specie as the singular of species. Yep. I feel like there was another one too that I wrote down. Also him just patronizingly busting out a children's book of dinosaurs.
That killed me.
But wouldn't you accept him as your grandfather? Sam would not.
He does say that Godzilla is a reptile, but he also says he's amphibian, which I think those are not one and the same.
You're thinking too hard.
he's completely batshit. Like, my headcanon is that he's just some like homeless person they just let into the studio, and he just goes wild because he's using children's book. He's speculating wildly on things he hasn't seen.
But he
or
does
doesn't
say
know
it
about.
sometimes. He's like, but I wouldn't really know what like when they're talking about, do we need the atomic bomb? He's like, I can't fully speak to that. He's a little humble sometimes.
It's the ultimate get out of jail free card. Well, I can't be sure. So
Right.
Well, and I feel like they had to think he was smart because he kept mispronouncing words.
Totally.
He just walked in and was like, "I'm here to talk to you about your atomic bomb," and they're like, "All right, he sounds smart."
Let him in.
Back on the island, Sakurai and Furu are attacked by a giant octopus. Well, not just them. The whole
Yes.
island is attacked by a giant octopus.
Incredible.
The best looking large monster I've seen to date.
Well, was it not a real normal-sized octopus?
That was a real octopus.
It was
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
amazing.
Which I have to wonder what the octopus's thought process was,
Yeah.
just being put on a giant, like a tiny set, and then just being like, "Go on, sit on that, go on."
He was like so cute though.
I was terrified of it as a kid. I was so scared I couldn't look at it, and it still is like genuinely repulsive to me. Like, I don't like to
Really?
look at it, especially when the air bladder
Yeah.
opens and you can like see up inside it. It grosses me the fuck out.
I was just terrified throughout that whole scene because it's like, oh god, are they going to get eaten? Is this what's going to happen?
I was ready
Did
to
you
watch a
guys-
whole movie of him just like squirming his way through Tokyo, just like getting that weird octopus juice everywhere.
Did you guys notice that there are a few shots amidst this battle where it looks as if it was wrapped in saran wrap?
Totally different
Yep.
color.
No, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
is that what happened? Were they like, "All right, we can't let it get away too far. Let's wrap it in saran wrap for a few shots," and then, because you...
Yeah, there's a dead octopus that they use during part of the
As
scene,
always.
and they cover it with plastic wrap so it doesn't like fall apart.
God.
Oh, no!
Fun fact.
That's the most horrifying part of this scene.
Yeah. But yeah, so the octopus attacks and the villagers and the Japanese guys try to fend it off for a bit. But then King Kong arrives in all his ratty glory.
Ratty glory, that's
His
so true.
ratchet ass glory.
King Kong in this movie kind of reminds me of Bobo the bear from that Simpsons episode.
Yes,
where
yeah,
it's been
oh my gosh.
like it's lasted this whole century. It went through World War One. Like he's so like clumps of fur. Like I imagine one eye kind of hanging a little low. Like
He looks so tired.
Oh,
the
man.
whole movie.
He's
like,
seen better days. that King Kong.
He looks like a junkie.
Oh yeah. Well, the berries. The berries.
He is
just
a
like,
junkie.
Come on, guys, give me some berries.
When he defeats the octopus, he's like throwing rocks. The octopus is kind of like, like the octopus didn't like die or look incredibly injured. He just decided like he kind of like maybe it wasn't worth it, and he like slowly left. And Kong went like, did one like tired scream, and then kind of looked around, not like victorious, but like,
Yeah, the octopus fled out of pity. It was just like, you know what?
yeah.
I feel like this octopus was a high-class citizen, and King Kong was just this junkie that assaulted him out of nowhere.
He was just like, it's not worth it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Kong, he's getting up there. At this point, he's almost 30 years old, and Godzilla's the spry new monster on the block.
Kong reminds me of the sheriff from Stranger Things in that, like, he maybe doesn't want to do these things, but he puts on these fights, and then he's just, like, tired and drinks a lot of beer.
I always thought that Kong drinking the berry juice in this scene could be repurposed really well for, like, a soda or beer ad. They would just need to, like, special effect,
Put a
like, their
Coca-Cola
product into his hand.
New Soma Soda from Blackface Island.
Oh, my God. Instead of the polar bear.
Oh no.
Yeah.
We're like Coca-Cola, but our clientele is just a little rattier.
So yeah, Kong, after he defeats the octopus, he drinks a lot of the berry juice.
A lot.
And thanks to a chant from all the natives, he falls asleep. And again, this is another scene where you guys probably felt lukewarm, but I will sing this movie's praises because I like the song a lot. And it's kind of impressive how many extras are in this scene. There's legitimately hundreds of people as the natives, like, dancing around Kong, which is something you don't see anymore, thanks to, like, crowd duplication in movies. So I kind of like that as, like, an old school movie making thing, how many people are in that scene. It's pretty cool.
It definitely had some nice kind of power behind it. Like, I was definitely like, ooh, this is a little spooky.
Once Kong falls asleep, Sakurai is like, we're bringing him with us. We got our monster.
Also, they never show any, like, the people from who live on the island being like, hey, like, maybe don't.
He's our god. Don't take him. Not we're taking him. Don't worry about it.
That's it. And there's no, like, how did they get him on that big thing?
Well, I think from this movie we can glean that he's very easily transported while asleep.
Right.
There's a lot of, like, King
Despite
Kong.
how heavy he is.
But the scene I wanna see is Kong, like, waking up and being just like, how the fuck did I get here?
I felt
no.
so bad for Kong. He's tired and exhausted to begin with. Then they pull him, then they're shooting at him and dump him in the ocean? I'd be pissed too.
Oh man, I really fell off the wagon this time, guys.
Yeah.
Anybody got some Soma?
I felt so bad for him.
So we have a brief scene where Fujita shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm not dead. And Tammy's like, oh shit, your girlfriend went to look for you. And this little boy and his mom show up and they're like, we're escaping from Godzilla. And the little boy says, Mommy, I want to see Godzilla.
And the mom goes, this isn't a zoo. It was a great response.
This isn't-
It was such a mom comment.
Like the Tokyo Zoo, where every exhibit is a giant monster.
This isn't the zoo. Let's go.
That sounds like a pitch for a
It sounds like one of Ryan's childhood dreams.
Yeah, like if they had Roller Coaster or Zoo Tycoon, but with giant monsters.
Yeah, Kaiju Tycoon.
Kaiju
Tycoon.
Tycoon. Yeah, there is a movie later that actually sort of uses that premise, and I love it.
Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park ripped off Godzilla. And then we get to another scene I love, which is the train attack, where Godzilla attacks the train that Famiko is on, and everybody gets off and runs from Godzilla, but she gets left behind. And there's a little touch in this scene that took me years to recognize, but when I did, I was like, holy shit. So did you guys notice how, like, when she was on the train, she was, like, helping this other woman with her kid? She was, like, holding her and, like, helping the kid go to sleep. When they have to get off the train and these trucks try to pick them up to, like, take them out of Godzilla's path, Famiko is trying to climb on the truck, and the woman whose daughter she was taking care of before pushes her off the truck. It's just like such an unexpectedly dark comment on human nature.
I didn't either.
And I love it.
Cold-blooded.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
She runs from Godzilla in like kind of a cool, interesting moment where you usually don't get to see people like running directly from Godzilla, like have the terror of Godzilla like personalized down to a single person. But you do in this scene. It's like he's chasing her even though he isn't.
My thing, when her boyfriend's driving back then, right, to find her, I'm like, how does he know she's not in one of the trucks? Because there's no way he saw all of them. And also, where'd the other, like, 14 people go that she was running with? Did they all scatter?
They got in the trucks.
But the truck people said there are, like, 14 or 15 behind. Then suddenly it's her looking like she's losing her mind, stumbling through this river. I was like, did she get hit in the head? Why can't she walk straight? Why is her body limp? Is she having a stroke?
It's true. She is definitely being like hysterical woman
It was like
in this scene. She's
very
flopping
dramatic.
all over the place.
I was like, you just run through the river. It's not that deep. But I don't know. I'm not being chased by Godzilla, I guess.
We all kind of have been in our own ways.
We all have our Godzillas in our lives.
Yeah. We've all been in those moments where we can't walk through the river alone.
Nah, you gotta just flop around.
Like, literally, I was like...
They dub her scream in this movie with this, like, very annoying parrot-like screech. I don't understand.
Oh no, no, Godzilla, don't!
And then, intercutting back to the King Kong story, he wakes up on the raft, and they have all this dynamite wired up, and Taco attempts to stop them from blowing him up, but Sakurai shoots the dynamite anyway when the plunger doesn't work, and so the whole raft blows up. But of course, it doesn't kill King Kong. It just makes him very angry.
They're being dicks to him, I gotta say. Like,
yeah.
For,
but this wasn't his first time being dynamited. Look at him. This exact thing has happened before.
For a raging alcoholic, King Kong is pretty damn powerful.
oh yeah.
But yeah, my favorite part about this scene is Dr. Taco's mix of adoration and fear when Kong escapes. If you watch his face after, Kong is just like roaring in the water, he's like, goes back and forth very quickly between like, this is awesome, and like, oh god, and this is awesome, and oh god.
How, well, two questions. One, how did they not die right then and there? And two, how throughout the entire film did they get these monsters to be where they wanted them to be at any point in time, except for when this reminded me very much of a season, like the most recent season of Game of Thrones, where like just things are just happening very quickly. Everyone's suddenly where they need them to be. They have all these government supplies to do all these things within seemingly a few hours. And yes, they can't kill these monsters, but they can train them to go where they need them to be.
Well,
Godzilla unlocked fast travel. That's really all there is to it.
To your point, though, I have a theory about this movie, and it was a thought I had actually later in the movie, which is, who is commanding this army?
Yeah.
Because their decisions are very extreme and very like whimsical, and I realized I think 5-year-old Ryan is the commander of all. Basically, he's calling all the shots.
Like, how did they wrap all of Tokyo in seemingly 45 minutes?
I think the answer to how they got King Kong where he needed to be is Ryan was like, nah, we gotta see him fight. Get him over there right now.
Well, it's true. Right after this scene, pretty soon we get to the first fight between King Kong and Godzilla, which is a little bit of a flash in the pan. It's like a tease, a skirmish, if you will.
Disappointing. My boy Kong, you can do better.
I was sad when he got burned. It hurt my feelings.
It really? You felt bad for King Kong?
I felt bad for him the whole movie, and I'll explain my thoughts at the end, but I have no heart for Godzilla. I'm all King Kong.
Taco and his buddies come to watch Godzilla and Kong fight, but it's very abortive because King Kong is afraid of Godzilla's atomic breath. Understandably, he gets burned pretty badly by it. Yeah.
I love how sad Taco was when he lost the coin flip. He was like so disappointed.
He's really rooting for Kong. And there's a little touch in this scene. It happens a lot later too, but this is the first time you see it, where Godzilla claps and it makes a weird noise. It's like tick, 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 and it's burned in my brain, like that sound of him doing his like little tiny claps.
Is it as though there's the first clap impact of his hands, but then his forearm skin is so loose that then the forearm skin slaps together a little after? So it's kind of like
he's a chunky boy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why, Ryan. It's anatomy.
Having seen later Godzilla movies, Ryan, is this the first time he does his little like clap / dance?
Yes, this is the first time we start getting like humanization and like funny touches to the monster. So yeah, this is the first time he claps or does anything remotely silly.
It was like a little end zone dance. I was like, all right.
It's definitely a far, far cry from "We'll Be With Daddy Soon," as we like to refer back to the tone of the original.
So again, if that line had been followed up with Godzilla showing up and then doing his little dance, you'd be like, this is kind of adorable.
With Daddy Soon. Wow, yeah, I forgot about that one.
So then the news that Kong has draws strength from electricity is somehow predicted by Dr. Johnson. At this point in the movie, we haven't seen that, but he's like, yeah, for some reason, Kong draws strength from electricity.
Best explanation ever.
Broken clocks right twice a day.
No, he says this very confidently, but I just love. I mean, if that's how you write. You write write a fact about a character. Is you just have someone say, for some reason, this is how it is, and then no question.
Hey, in the world of giant monsters, anything is possible.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, you have no idea.
They didn't even try. They could have actually said anything. They could have been like, yeah, he was struck by lightning when he was young, and it actually makes him more powerful. Nope.
No explanation.
Speaking of Godzilla, now we have the scene where the army tries to trap him in this gigantic pit, which, again, really cool scene for 5-year-old Ryan. I loved this a lot.
Cute that they thought it would work.
Commander Ryan. We have him cornered. What do we do? Blow him up, put him in a ditch. I want to see it. I want to see the dirt run over him. I want to see.
Build a big secret ditch.
I want to see the lizard go in the hole.
Yeah, and with like the rivers of gasoline flames around him.
When those guys threw those torches, for how much in Rodan they like couldn't hit anything, their torch throwing was so on point. I was impressed.
It was really good. Yeah, although I think that the way they probably did that was those were separate takes where they just filmed those torches just bouncing off a blue screen or something, because the way that the torches just kind of bounced off of him was really delightful. There was no like, oh, that fire touched him. It was more like he just repelled it with his skin.
Yeah.
I think you're thinking of the giant octopus scene when they're throwing the flares at him.
You're absolutely right.
Because what happens here is they throw it in a river. And that actually looks pretty good. It's one of the better special effects scenes.
I was thinking of the octopus, which they didn't actually throw tiny torches at a normal octopus. Thankfully.
No.
Because otherwise he'd die and then you'd have to wrap him in saran wrap and keep using
That's
him.
how he died.
Oh, no.
Don't you understand? They pelted
Two fun facts about this scene. First, it was used as reference footage for when they animated the Kraken in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Really?
That was their reference footage. Yep. And two, the special effects director, Eiji Tsuburaya, cooked and ate the octopus after they were done filming.
I knew you were going to say
Delicious.
that.
Beautiful.
Wow.
So sad.
So yeah, after that doesn't work, this plan to put Godzilla in a pit and blow him up, they build an electric barrier, which does work. And to be fair, that's consistent with what we know about Godzilla from other movies. He doesn't like electricity, but he does conveniently forget he has atomic breath here, which is how he dealt with the electric barrier in the first movie. But whatever. He can forget it. There's a little moment right after this where the dub is ridiculous, where the army general is like sitting in a like situation room, and he's talking on the phone, and you hear him say, "What? Well, we'll be right over." Like he's delivering a pizza or something. I get a kick out of that every time.
What do you think the Japanese Defense Force does when there's not Godzilla attacking?
But then, of course, King Kong attacks the barrier, and he likes electricity. He sucks it out of the wires like straws, which is so cute.
He thought it was crack.
No, so I'm starting to wonder what if like Soma isn't so much like, you know, a tranquilizer as it is like PCP, and so that's why Kong goes from like a minor threat to like ridiculously overpowered at the end of this movie.
He tanks that electric shock like a boss, and wanders into Tokyo, picks poor Fumiko out of a train.
Poor Fumiko, he did not harm her at all. This is another point in why I love Kong. Godzilla does not care if you are in his way. Kong is a kind, beautiful soul who, you know, just didn't want to hurt anyone. He was just put into poor circumstances.
He was.
And he treated her with a lot more tenderness than some of the other Kongs have treated their lady wards.
He was more like amused, just like, who's this? My little friend.
Yeah.
Hey, you look like one of the girls back on the island. But you're a slightly different color.
This scene is kind of goofy because they walk Kong through all the King Kong tropes. They have him pick up a pretty girl. They have him climb a building.
Very
not
small.
Tall
He took
at all.
one step.
No.
It's very
the
sad.
equivalent of like standing on a step stool to use the sink.
Yeah.
Yep.
And a little thing that gives me a kick in this scene is to attempt to emulate the fact that she's far away outside in this scene. The dub artist for Fumiko stood in the back of the recording booth, and you can hear like the echo of a tiny room, and it doesn't work at all.
Yeah, it sounded pretty bad.
You can hear that distant parrot scream.
Also, I feel like can only speculate, but if I were being held by a giant monster, she just screamed for I feel like I would have tried to speak calmly to it, like, hey, buddy, put me down, you know? I don't know, like how you speak to any large animal, but I guess not.
Joanna, I want to see you in this movie replacing Fumiko.
Also, she kept wailing her arms, but not like grabbing to him. She just kept like, oh, woe is me. I was like, girl, you need to figure your shit out.
Yeah, you're going to fall out of that hand before you ever escape this situation.
You need to talk to this nice big animal and calm him down.
You're going to see, he's just, King Kong is like someone who the government's got some dirt on, who's like looking for his wife and child. Like, he's definitely like a very sympathetic. It's like, hey, what? Can you put me down? Just tell me where my wife and daughter are.
Yeah.
But yeah, they Sakurai and Dr. Tako jointly come up with a plan to put Kong to sleep using rockets full of berry juice and playing the Kong's lullaby, for lack of a better.
Did they record that while they were there?
Yeah, because it looked as if they put up the speakers and it was playing the song. I don't think that was actually the case, though, right? That was just, like, was it that the actual song is implied, like King Kong's hearing it?
It's kind of baffling. This is something that was changed for the American version. There is no footage of those speakers going up, so I wonder if they actually newly filmed that. Like, they just took, like, an afternoon on the Universal lot and put up speakers in the trees, because in the Japanese version, it's only Sakurai playing the drums. And then you get, like, the sense that that's reminding Kong of the song. But I guess that was too confusing for the American audience, so now they have them literally
one
playing
drum?
a tape.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Which makes it look terrible because Sakurai's drumming is out of sync
Yep.
with the recording.
Also, Sakurai, you lazy shit, drumming that is not that hard.
Yeah, when he goes, go get her. Help, my arms are tired.
I think they needed to add a scene earlier in the movie where they show up and they're like, look, a radio, it's magic. And then the nail's like, oh, he's like, look, a tape recorder.
Right.
Play your song, it's magic.
Or like even just one pulls it out, really fast at the end. Oh, what can you do?
Could have done it. I know. It's so sad.
I just want to know, like, how did they get the berries inside the rockets?
This is the moment where I realized Ryan, at 5 years old, is the commander of this army. So they're like, what do we do right now? And then he calls in the command. He's like, juice bomb?
What about a juice bomb? Yeah.
Ryan, you ordered, a year ago, you ordered so many, just this entire, 1,000-piece collection of juice bombs, and we don't know what to do with them. We're never going to need an exploding juice grenade. And you're like, no, trust me. I like juice. I like explosions.
It's so funny you were saying this because I was literally about to say, as a child, I thought both this plan and the plan to airlift King Kong with the wire were ingenious. I thought they were so smart.
That was the next thing, was when the balloons showed up, and I was like, oh, of course. Like, yellow balloons and juice makes sense.
Yeah.
Ryan, don't you know you're enabling a drug addict? King Kong is suffering, and you are making it worse.
On the subject of that plan to airlift him with the balloons, though, using that wire, it sounds brilliant, but we saw it earlier, and it was so thin you couldn't even see it, right? It was like a very thin wire, which makes me think if they tried to...
Oh, wait, that's from when that guy, flew himself off the balcony, right?
Yeah, and someone said...
Dumb move, in my opinion. He was having too much fun.
That has another mispronounced line, though, of, you aren't Tarzan.
Oh, God.
But so it's that thin of wire. It's like fishing line, which I just feel like they'd wrap Kong up in that. The balloons would lift, and it would just dice him into many pieces that would stay on the
ground. It probably would. Now that you're thinking
this movie would have a very different ending.
Well, fortunately for us in Kong, it works. And it's preceded by Dr. Taco having one of his last lines, King Kong can't make a monkey out of me.
Amazing.
Yes. Great.
So then, part of this plan to airlift Kong is because Godzilla is approaching again, and they're like, we gotta do something about these two monsters. We can't just keep, barely holding them off. And so they come up with a plan to put them together. And so they bring Kong to Mount Fuji, and then the greatest moment of my childhood begins. King Kong versus Godzilla, the entire 10-minute fight.
What a fight. Having seen some of the later Godzilla fights, that's one of the best, and I was completely taken aback by that.
It was a pretty good fight.
It's good. It's the first knockdown drag out brawl in Godzilla. He does fight Anguirus in a previous movie, as we saw, but this is the first fight where they just let it go. Mm-hmm. It's just let's just watch the
And
fight.
this is what I mean by I see why this is Ryan's favorite.
Yep.
I see it.
When King Kong starts shoving that tree down Godzilla's throat.
Yes!
And Godzilla flame throws it back at him. That was one of the better written fight sequences I've seen.
Him shoving the tree into Godzilla's mouth is the best part of this movie.
Yeah. The anger.
I might have been mixing it up with an earlier scene, but didn't he at one point, somehow get, lightning fists?
Yes, he got lightning fists.
Yes, so what happens, the basic arc of this scene is the fight's fairly even matched at first. Kong is the agile, tricky one. Godzilla is, the sturdy, powerful one. But then Godzilla gets the handle on Kong by knocking his skull into some rocks and lighting him on fire.
Also, Godzilla spent a solid 5 minutes covering Kong in rocks. They really kept hitting him with the tail on the face. I was like,
not only that, Not only that, but King Kong was pulling an old bait and switch on him too, where he's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm down.
He's like, I'm dead.
And then he leaps up so fast, where it's like, haha, got you, and then starts fighting him some more, and then gets beat up some more.
And I love that everyone in the helicopter is so into it. They're like, grab his tail. Like, it's like when you're watching sports on television, like, Kong doesn't know what you mean by that. You guys don't speak the same language.
That's what I mean by it's very conscious of the fact that this is what everyone wants.
Yeah, I love the tree getting shoved down Godzilla's throat. I love the bait and switch. I love how at one point King Kong falls down and then stands up and rubs his ass.
I love that anytime he gets burned, he's like, what the... He like takes a little second to look at his singed like fur.
I like that they both get in some hits.
Yep.
But yeah, then King Kong gets hit by the lightning, and it's a rough ride for Godzilla, because every time Kong touches him, lightning comes out of his hands. Which, I don't, you could say whether it looks good or not, but it's impressively consummate to do that much frame-by-frame animation for those little lightning shocks at that time. That was a lot of work. So.
Yeah, they would have, I think at that point, have to draw them in by hand, which is...
Yeah,
oof.
Absolutely. Which is pretty cool, though. So yeah, you get it amped up. Like, King Kong is no longer just like your average monster.
Ryan,
now
who
he
are you
has
rooting
lightning
for in this
fists.
fight? Do you go back and forth, or are you pure Godzilla?
I'm always in favor of Godzilla because
I was only King Kong,
but
I didn't know how this would end, and I was like, maybe Kong will kill Godzilla, and that's what I was rooting for.
And that's it.
Not because I hate
You're
Godzilla,
done.
just because I'm like, Kong's a much more sympathetic character.
he's very sympathetic, and I think that's intentional. Which is,
And he seemed like the underdog. Like, at first, I was like, Godzilla's got that thick skin,
Right.
and I don't know how.
He's got a lot in common with Mickey Rourke and The Wrestler.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, I hate that movie, but you're so right.
well, to get to the end very quickly, we're almost there. There's one last spectacular set piece as Godzilla gets behind the huge Japanese castle, and they hate each other so much that they can't even like step around the castle for a second. They just like plunge towards each other, smashing up this castle as it falls apart layer by layer.
Yeah, it looked great.
It's great. And then once it's out of the way, King Kong tackles Godzilla into the ocean, and they're both roaring, and there's a huge earthquake. And when the dust settles, King Kong alone emerges from the ocean and swims back on his long
And I love,
journey
though,
home.
that they said, and we do, what they say at the end, like, we hope he makes it safely.
And we wish him luck.
We hope
I
he
was
makes
like,
it back.
I do.
He's been through a lot today.
Back to his
Been through a lot.
drugs. Back to Blackface Island.
Have a drink and
His
pass
home.
out.
Guys, and he won't remember a thing about this.
Nope.
This is a blackout episode for Carl.
Guys, you need to see that whole time as Ryan described that fight, the smile on his face.
Grinning ear to
Amazing.
ear.
Yeah. There wasn't any space between his ears. It was just a
Ryan,
mouth
is there any
connecting two
detail you
ears.
want to bring up again? You know, now's your chance to have it
There's a
forever
there's a
enshrined
little
in a
twinkle in his
podcast.
eye.
I'd just like to say that this is the greatest fight scene of all time. There was never a better one.
The man has
Strong
spoken.
words.
I don't even think I have to say what I think. So, what are you guys' ultimate thoughts on the American version of King Kong versus Godzilla?
I can't tell if I like this one or Mothra more, but definitely up among my favorites that we've seen. I mean, the first one was good because it was much more dramatic and it was the first time, but this is, bearable and enjoyable to watch versus a few of the in-between ones that we've seen.
Yeah, I agree. Mothra is like a weird fever dream of a movie, which I love.
Yeah.
It's like David Lynch made it for us. But this one has like a whimsy about it. Especially once they put him on the yellow, like suspended him from yellow balloons, I was like, all right,
Yes.
I get it. I get what this is. And I'm loving every moment of it. So yeah, I really liked it.
And I love Kong. I'm down to see him again. Love his heart.
They leave it open for a sequel.
Totally.
They do. And I'll talk more about that in a minute, but I want to know what good old Matty Boy thought of it first.
So for this one, I loved it for just seeing like, oh, like despite a little bit of American editing weirdness, like there's a little bit of satire, it's a little bit more cheeky, it's a little bit more clever than I usually expect from some of the earlier Godzilla movies. I loved the fight. I loved both Kong and Godzilla and how they're kind of portrayed in this movie. I also just really, really liked the cringe elements because there's such a, like, the movie is so whimsical already that it comes off as so just pure and, like, innocent and just like, oh, you thought that was okay and it was beautiful and I love it.
Well, I'm glad you all at least mostly liked it. I was a little afraid I was going to have to defend it, but I felt like you all got it. Got the appeal that made it so incredible to me at age 5. But it actually had a very big impact in its original release, too. This was and is the best, the most successful Japanese Godzilla movie. Almost 12 million people saw it in Japan on its original release, which at the time was like 1/6 of the population.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And so Toho was like, whoa, Godzilla brings us money.
And what's his name?
On,
The animator was like, God fucking damn it.
Oh man.
Yeah. He wanted to kill him.
That's we won't have to improvise his demise for you guys because he's just rolling over in his grave.
But Toho made bank, and yeah, from 1964 until 1975, there was a Godzilla movie every year.
Wow.
Except, well, they took 1 year off, but there's 2 in 64.
Wow.
So yeah, basically for every year, there was a new Godzilla movie because this one did so phenomenally for them. And originally they just wanted to pick up and do like King Kong versus Godzilla 2. But Universal was like, nah, we're good.
We don't want another dead animator on our hands.
So, I have 2 questions for you all today.
Right.
3 questions?
Or I guess 3. We have our usual question as well.
4.
7?
3. 5. 4.
We've settled on 3. Sorry, I took a little too much Soma before I came here today. So, real quick, what's each of your pitches for Taco's commercial using Kong? How would you pitch the advertisement if he had gotten to use King Kong?
Is he in the commercial?
I would assume so. You would probably want to use King Kong with all that trouble you've gotten through.
All right. Here's what I'm thinking. Tacos Toupee Emporium. Look at Kong. Look at this beautiful beast just covered in hair. Now look at yourself. Look at your hair. Maybe you're missing a few. You just we've shaved a few snippings off of Kong, and now you can just put one on and you can be the coolest cat in town.
I feel so bad for King Kong.
I hope his hair grows back.
How long do you think he was asleep?
Yeah, his hair was a little ratty, though.
I do not want to see this King Kong without his fur. That would be a disturbing sight.
No, they show you show him with the fur, and then people go like, oh wow, he's really hairy, he must have a lot of hair.
I know, I'm just thinking of a shaved King Kong now, and it's not a pretty sight.
Just covered with sores and terrified.
Yeah, like
Lumps.
saddled. Mm.
Poor King Kong. So wait, he's bringing back Kong. Is the idea to be like an attraction, like, hey, here's our giant ape show, or is it that he can use him as for anything he wants? Like, can he be a mascot for something?
It's the idea that he's going to use him in a television commercial.
Oh.
Of course, yeah. So yeah, it would be like a he'd be like the mascot for a new product, which would be like, you know, a children's cigarette would be the product, and then he'd be the mascot. So it would be like a, you know, like it would be like a Nicotine's, like TENS, and it'd be like, you know, a cigarette for kids, and then it would cut to King Kong like smoking a cigarette and just be like and like not enjoying it, and then it would cut back and be like, he loves it, come on over, don't tell your parents.
Man, you guys are just torturing poor Kong.
Again, he's not gonna remember it.
I just imagine him selling, just really as a car salesman. I mean, he would perfectly fit the role with Kong. And so it's just Kong in the lot, and he's like, look, I got my friend coming down at the lot today. Let's take a look at what we got here. And he gets in the convertible, and then Kong picks up the convertible. He's like, whoa, look at the views from here. 10 out of 10 with blah, blah, blah cars, Kong cars.
And then out in front of that used car sales lot is like one of those inflatable balloon guy things, except that it's the dead octopus.
No, oh my god. I was going to say they don't even need it. He just flails his own arms while Kong just waves in the background.
It's gotta be the octopus.
Not in my Kong car shop.
All right. For me, I would just have Kong and Dr. Taco in identical tuxedos.
Oh, that's good.
And do you remember the Japanese pop song from the radio where they impress the chief? Mm-hmm. It would be a duet. They would sing it together.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's my idea.
That's so tender. That's not
Oh, Ryan, that's tender.
That's just a nice Sunday special.
Stop calling
8
me
8 p.m.
tender.
on NBC. Stop calling me tender.
And then finally, as usual, who would you recommend this movie to?
Anyone?
I would recommend this movie to someone, and I would go, hey, do you want to see like a really funny, kind of campy monster movie, but with some like really, really great fights and set pieces for their time?
I think my mom would like it. I think she'd like King Kong too.
What's your rationale? What would your mom like about King Kong?
I mean, she loves Dante's Peak, Deep Blue Sea. This fits in the B-rated, enjoyable character genre.
All right, so there was this kid I went to high school with, right?
Oh boy.
I feel like it's a theme now.
Why does it always come back to this?
No. So this was this kid I had art class with one year, and he was obsessed with like army stuff. Like all he ever talked about was going hunting, or like Saving Private Ryan, or like just whatever new gun he'd heard of, and like ended up joining the army, or I think was it the army, something like that, some sort of military thing. And then now he's no longer part of it, but all he does is spread very inflammatory political views on the Facebook. And I think had we shown him this military and opened his eyes to the whimsy of juice explosions and balloon ape removal, he might be different. So I think
you could have saved
it. Could have, and maybe it's not too late.
So you would recommend it to him? That's as good of an answer as any.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we haven't talked about it enough, next show we're going to be watching the Japanese version of King Kong versus Godzilla. And that's going to be here with us again so he can break down the differences.
Yep, I'll still be here. You can't get rid of me. I paid.
We actually didn't want him, but he said he had to be. We were like, we're going to get...
Nope, I kicked in the door. Gun to Ryan's head. You're putting me on the Godzillavangelists.
Next week's guest will be Matt Charles.
As always, I encourage you to watch this one with us. However, this one is maybe the tallest order of any Godzilla movie to watch in English-speaking countries. So, you can find it.
Good luck.
But you're going to have to be persistent. And if you don't see it, don't worry. We'll tell you all about the amazingness that you missed. As always, if you like the show, we would love if you left a review wherever you listen to it, or a comment, especially on iTunes, where I actually have a brand new 5-star review
on iTunes
to read to you guys.
Did they vote between me and Sam?
They did not.
Damn it. Come on, people.
Doesn't count then.
This is a neutral choice. All right, it's entitled "More Fun Than Your Very Own Oxygen Destroyer."
Woo!
5 stars by Blooperly. These guys do a lovely job of laying out the good, the bad, and the ugly of our favorite big lizard boy. Give this podcast a chance. Godzilla will stomp his way through Japan and into your heart.
Aww. Aww.
I know. It's such a nice review.
So nice.
And you too can get your review read on the show if you leave one.
Or go on Reddit and talk about how Ryan's friends don't understand these movies.
That did happen. I don't want to rag on that guy too hard. He had a good point.
No, he did not. Don't listen
he
to us.
He was sensitive.
Much love to Reddit. They give us a lot of love every month. But we're gonna go ahead and go. We have to find King Kong. He's off stumbling around drunk somewhere.
Gotta get him clean.
We'll see you soon for part 2. Good night, and we wish him luck on his long, long journey home. Godzillavangelists, a Geek Stew Network podcast, is brought to you by me, Ryan Sargent, and my friends, Joanna Brodecki and Sam Schlenker. We'd like to thank our fabulous editor and mixer, Rachel Deering. All our incredible music is composed by Robert Mai, and our wonderful artwork is drawn by Cassidy Stone. Special thanks to our families, friends, and the wonderful artists who made the movies we talked about today. Godzillavangelists is a satirical, critical work not affiliated or endorsed by Toho, Legendary Pictures, or anyone behind the Godzilla series. Visit our website at godzillavangelists.com. We're also on Twitter at GodzillaCast and Instagram at GodzillaVangelists. If you prefer to listen to us online, we have a YouTube channel, and the latest episode is always on SoundCloud too. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you join us next episode. In the meantime, keep spreading the word of Godzilla.